Yes, it's a special Anglophile edition of the exclusive film and video report. I forgot what the name of the segment was. Weren't we just going to call it the Hello Larry fan club at one point?
You know, that would get a lot of ratings.
We did. Yeah, listen, we should continue to talk about Hello Larry. Our presentations on YouTube. You know, when we do these on the show and then I stick them on YouTube. The popularity has been waning as of late.
I know, and you do a lot of work on them when you do these presentations.
I know.
Images and everything.
So now what we're going to do is we're going to have like kind of a catch-all conversation about British comedy.
Yeah, now we're looking at British comedy. Now, British
sitcoms. That's
not,
the key thing.
Not variety shows like Benny Hill or Monty Python.
Monty Python, which is sketch comedy, yeah.
Exactly, you know, or a bit of Hugh and Laurie.
So
bit of Fry and Laurie.
A bit of Fry and Laurie. A bit of Hugh and Laurie. Kind of how his parents got together.
Probably.
British sitcom. This was 2004.
Okay.
Viewers were asked to vote about their favorite British sitcom, and they compiled a list of 100. And we're going to cover all 100. No, we're not. But we'll cover the top 20.
Okay, we can do that.
And I think, we have enough familiarity, I think, with these shows, because a lot of people, certainly in Great Britain, probably don't realize this, that I think Americans are a lot more familiar with British television than they would think.
We don't like ourselves. We're always looking for someone else. And it's so funny because all these sitcoms have inspired some of our great sitcoms.
And I believe one of those, I don't know if our version was a great sitcom, but one of them is in the top 20 here.
Oh, well, I can't wait.
We're going to mention some of the ones that did not make the top 20. There are shows that have been around forever, like Life with the Lions. That show...
I don't know that one.
That show was a BBC radio show. So it says here February 55... to 1960, but it was on for a good 10 years prior to that on radio. And, of course, it's famous among Beatles circles because John and Yoko had a record called Life with the Lions.
Oh, I didn't. Okay.
So based on that...
and no one was a bigger British comedy fan than John Lennon.
Let's see. Robin's Nest, which was the spin-off of...
Man of the House.
Man About the House.
Man About the House.
It was the spin-off of Man About the House.
Which inspired Three's Company in America.
And Robin's Nest was the Three's a Crowd of Man About the House.
Okay.
So it was when Robin left and formed his own bistro.
So
basically nothing was original at all about Three's Company. Even the spinoff was unoriginal. Man About the House is up there. Bless This House. Dear John, which became the
American version of Dear John,
right,
with Judd Hirsch. Yeah.
We can't think of anything here.
We can't.
So we get to the top 20. At number 20, Are You Being Served?
That was what drew me. And it's actually still on Friday nights on PBS.
There are elderly people all across the country who continue to watch Are You Being Served?
Even though the original cast is all dead, I think.
I love that show, Are You Being Served?
I love it.
Mr. Humphreys, I'm free.
I'm free. He even put out an album.
There was Are You Being Served Again. Remember when they brought it back? Mr. Grace Brothers. Grace Brothers was the department store. He left them a bed and breakfast.
Yes.
And some of the cast came back.
But then there was also an Australian version of Are You Being Served, which ran in the early 80s, and John Inman as Mr. Humphreys recreated the role where he was brought over.
Right.
And he says it was the worst idea.
And then the young girl on the show,
Ms. Brahms,
Shirley Brahms, she became
EastEnders.
Pauline Fowler on EastEnders. Well, I remember that character.
You and your grandma watching.
Me and my grandmother watch EastEnders. By the way, the young one's not in the top 20.
Are you kidding me?
It's not in the top 20.
Wow.
The Royal Family at number 19, Royle. I've never seen it.
That became an American version with, believe it or not, Red Fox.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay. Red Dwarf at number 18, and we were talking about this. I've never seen one single episode of Red Dwarf. I know it's been on all over.
And believe it or not, 20 years ago, they did an American version of Red Dwarf. They did 2 pilots because both pilots were bad and it never worked.
Wow. Never saw it. At number 17, Absolutely Fabulous.
Of course.
Which
I never got into.
I never liked. I thought these were like horrible women, and I didn't get it. I don't get the joke of that show.
Roseanne loved them. She even brought them on an episode.
Oh, and wasn't there an attempt with Gene Smart?
Yeah.
There was an American version of Ab Fab with Gene Smart and somebody else, Connie Selicker or somebody, I don't know. and it was a complete flop. At number 15, Steptoe and Son, which we in America know as Sanford and Son. Steptoe and Son, starring, the old man. He was a little old man in Hard Day's Night. At number 14, the 2 series Last of the Summer Wine and First of the Summer Wine.
And I think that starred the late, great Richard Griffiths.
Was he on that?
Yes, I think so.
Okay, yes, you're right. At number 13, one of my personal favorites.
What?
Allo, Allo.
I never got into that.
I loved this show. The show always opened with Renee behind the bar, and he would always say, "You are probably wondering what I am doing washing these dishes." The Germans, it was all about, the Germans. Right, they were occupied France, sort of like Hogan's Heroes, I guess. But it was the resistance against the Germans. And, listen carefully, I shall say this only once. It was a big thing. Keeping Up Appearances at number 12.
My mom and dad loved that show.
A lot of British shows tend to appeal to a much older audience, which we don't do here in America.
We don't.
We had Golden Girls and Empty Nest long ago, and that was it. And Diagnosis Murder. And Father Dowling Mysteries.
Hunter.
Oh, Hunter was for everybody. That wasn't just for old people.
Diagnosis Murder.
By the way, if you take away anything from this discussion tonight, Hunter was for everybody. That's what you should take away.
Jake and the Fat Man.
We did Keeping Up Appearances number 12. At number 11, Father Ted. I know it's been on, never watched it.
Well, I think the big thing about that show was the main character that played Father Ted passed away when it finally came to America.
Oh, that's a shame.
But that show introduced the world to Graham Norton.
Oh, was he on that program?
He had a little role, yeah.
Okay. At number 10, One Foot in the Grave. Never heard of it. I have no idea what it is.
Yeah, I think it's about a retirement center.
See, again, more shows for old people. At number 9, The Good Life, which we know in America as Good Neighbors. It was retitled.
Okay.
And The Good Life, alias Good Neighbors, was Felicity Kendall.
Yes.
See, the whole idea of The Good Life, it was yuppies who decide to live this sort of hippie commune type thing. They're very progressive, and they were next door to snooty people.
Okay.
And it was all about how they related to each other.
I saw Felicity Kendall in a play once.
A lot of people liked Felicity Kendall, including then the young ones referenced her a lot, didn't they?
They might have.
Yeah, that's sort of like she represented all that was bright and good in the world.
Vivian
Felicity Kendall,
her.
right?
Yeah.
Open All Hours, which I love. I have the entire series of that. I paid the $80 for Open All Hours.
I don't know Open All Hours.
Ronnie Barker and David Jason, who we'll hear from again on this list. Arkwright, he owns a store in a small town. I guess it's supposed to be Yorkshire. I think it's a small town in Yorkshire. And he's Arkwright, the shop owner, and he has a terrible stutter, which is not politically correct now, but it was funny at the time. It was always a Granville. And look, the way I'm doing it's not funny, but if you were to see the show, and it was David Jason plays Granville, who's like the shop boy.
Uh-huh.
And the whole idea was he was like, he's like, what kind of life is this? Oh, I bet Richard Burton has, women throwing themselves at him. And the whole thing was, he's like, one of these days when I grow up. And meanwhile, he was like 45,
Oh, my God, that's my life.
Yeah, it's mine, too. No wonder I love this show so much.
I'm really depressed now.
At number 7, Porridge.
Now, that's a weird show.
That's the prison show.
A
and
sitcom
it's
about a prison.
Sitcom, a long-running show, 74 to 77. At number 6, Yes Minister and Yes Prime Minister.
And I actually had the creator of the show, the co-creator, on my program.
On your program?
Yes, Jonathan Lynn, who directed My Cousin Vinny.
Yes Minister was a show that my dad really enjoyed.
In 1980, and actually it had a huge following. What was interesting was one of the big fans was John Landis was a huge fan. He's an Anglophile. Based on Yes Minister, he hired Jonathan Lynn to do Clue.
Oh, really? Okay.
But actually, there's a stage production of Yes Minister, which it ran in London. Now it's running in L.A.
I did not know that.
Michael McKean.
It's one of those shows that I have a feeling that I would probably like now. Fawlty Towers at number 5.
It's genius, pure genius.
Usually considered the greatest of all the British sitcoms, but according to the British public, only at number 5. And that is, there's so many classic episodes. Well, there aren't so many classic episodes because there's only about 18, I think, altogether.
And the funny thing about that series is that it was 2 seasons, but there was like a 3-year break between them. And then John Cleese and Connie Booth were married in the first series, and then they were divorced in the second.
Yeah, in real life, they were married they wrote that together.
After the divorce.
And after the divorce, they continued. And number 4, this is no shock, but to people in the U.S., it might be Dad's Army. Because Dad's Army, that's another one that ran for years, 1968 to 1977, and it was on radio as well. And I don't think that's ever really been run in America.
The little old actor that played young Mr. Grace.
Oh, was he in Dad's Army?
He was on Dad's Army.
Oh,
That's what got him seen for Are You Being Served?
At number 3, The Vicar of Dibley.
My mom likes that. That's
Dawn French.
Dawn French, who's married to Lenny Henry. My mother loves that show. I don't get it.
I've only seen it here and there, but again, now it's funny. I like the French and Saunders show when the two of them, Jennifer Saunders and Dawn French, had their own sort of sketch comedy show. I actually liked that. I thought that was pretty funny. Now, I know they created Absolutely Fabulous, which I don't really care for. And I think of the two, Jennifer Saunders became more of a bigger star.
Yeah.
'Cause she went in to do movies and stuff.
She did a lot of
it's
films.
sort of like Cook and More, their type of thing, where
Yeah.
one got really, really successful and the other one, well, I mean, she had a show that ran for, it says here 94 to 2007, so there must have been a period where she wasn't
Well, you know what
doing
it was? The show went from like 94 to 90 to 95, and then there was like a 12-year break,
Right,
and then
and then
they
they'd
did a
come
Christmas
back.
special. Remember the Christmas specials?
Blackadder at number 2. Speaking of Christmas specials.
Which I adore. The first season, though, the first series, which I think is brilliant, is considered a huge, major, expensive flop.
Yes, yeah. Well, I watched a documentary on it, and they brought it back for the second season. They said, if we want to continue with this, you got to slash the budget. We can't have a cast of thousands, and it's going to be set in a couple of rooms, and that's it.
In a studio.
And they, you know what they did? They changed the character of Blackadder from an absolute simpering coward to like a
villain.
sardonic, bad guy that you root for,
Yeah.
because everybody around him, everybody in position of power around him is such a buffoon that you wind up rooting for Blackadder. And as much as people like Mr. Bean, which also is not on this list at all,
Wow.
because I guess it's considered sketch comedy,
Yeah.
Mr. Bean
Doesn't really.
did nothing for me, really. I liked it, but having seen Rowan Atkinson as Blackadder, in especially Blackadder 2 and 3 and 4, for me, it seems like a come down. Now, Johnny English, the first one, I never saw the second
saw the
one.
second
I
one,
thought
so-
that Johnny English was Austin Powers done right.
Here's the funny thing. It took him a while to get an American audience because they brought him to Broadway in 1986 with his one-man show. It was called Atkinson at the Atkinson.
Right.
It closed after 2 days.
I have an album, I think, that he did, or of that show,
Yeah.
in England anyway, where he played the devil.
Oh, the
Remember
devil
that sketch?
is wonderful.
It's one who's like, it's like, I am Lucifer, but you can call me Toby. And number 1, Only Fools and Horses.
I don't know that.
That's another one with David Jason, who used to be in Open All Hours. Now, that's got a run of 1981 to 2003.
Oh,
but
boy.
I think that's not one of those shows where they took long layoffs. I think they actually did continue, and it's just been on for so long. And that is currently on PBS. You can watch that.
And that is your favorite show. But you know, all these
It's
shows,
not my favorite show, but it's their favorite show.
but all these shows that have influenced America and that we have no ideas in America, there's one show that was not influenced by British shows.
What's that?
This show.
That's true.
We did not rip this off for some British TV.
Oh, there probably is somebody in the BBC doing something exactly like this.
It's probably true.
Did I forget one? Yes. At number 16, Men Behaving Badly.
Which became an
Which
American
became
version.
an American
Rob
sitcom that
Schneider.
was a legendary flop here in America, and it ran for many years over in Great Britain. And I remember that's one of the few instances where the British version, because when Three's Company was popular, they did import Man About the House. I did see that while Three's Company was on here, because Channel 9 locally got Robin's Nest and Man About the House. And I remember they even advertised it, like, see where Three's Company came from. Meet the Ropers, the original Ropers and all that. And I was very excited to watch it, and I liked it. I did like the show.
All in the Family is also based on a British show.
Yes, All in the Family is, Till Death Do Us Part.
Yeah.
That's the show. And we have no original ideas. In fact, if there's anybody who should be brought up on charges of plagiarism, well, it's not really plagiarism, he just bought the rights to these shows, is Norman Lear. I don't think Norman Lear ever created anything original in his life.
Which makes me wonder if there was a British version of Maude.
Yes, I'm sure there was. Wasn't Maud a spin-off character from All in the Family?
Yes.
So everything that Norman Lear ever did was based on a British show. Norman Lear gets a lot of respect in the United States because he's supposed to be this big genius of television in the 70s. He never had an original thought in his life. Anyway, that's what would be your of those 20 that we mentioned? Would Red Dwarf be your favorite, or Blackadder, I guess, would be your favorite?
I would have to say, seriously, Are You Being Served? Because high school was very difficult for me.
And that show got you through high
And this
school.
show got me through it. That show, and of course, Friday nights I would watch USA Up All Night with Rhonda Shear because,
Right.
you know, she was hot. No, she still is.
We're
And
getting
she's-
off on a totally
But all
different
I'm
topic.
saying is, Are You Being Served? I looked forward to it on PBS when I got home on Fridays. I needed to laugh.
Right.
That, and it was a show called The British Empire,
Yes, yeah, and that is on the list, but not in the top 20.
starring Chris Berry from Red Dwarf.
I would say, as much as I love Blackadder, which usually would be my favorite, I think. If somebody were to say, what's your favorite? My sentimental favorites are Allo Allo and Open All Hours. But the problem with Allo Allo is that as the show went on, cast members started leaving and they just started replacing people, and it just wasn't as much fun anymore. The first 2 seasons are really great, then it starts to get a bit off. But Open All Hours, I have very fond memories of watching that with my grandmother after we watched EastEnders, and I get sentimental when I hear that music, the Open All Hours music, and I've seen all of those episodes so many times, and I think that's part of it. If you grew up watching these shows, I mean, I'm sentimental about a lot of things, but I guess Open All Hours probably would be my number one. If somebody said you can watch any British sitcom right now, I would say, Open All Hours.
Wow.
Or maybe one of the ones I've never seen, like Porridge, for example.
Well, there you go. We just go to YouTube.
You know what I'd like to hear? What? I would like to hear some Brits and what they consider their top 100 American sitcoms.
I know, it would be Friends. That'd be number one.
Really? Was that a huge hit in Britain?
Yeah. When I was in England, because I worked there for a little bit, they loved Frasier.
Right.
Because Derek Jacobi did a guest star. They loved Friends. They loved Friends. And that was pretty much it.
Wow. We always think of Britain as being slightly more high class than we are. And then you take a look at their TV, and then you take a look at what they like in the pop charts, and they're just as bad.
You should see their
People
soap
are
operas.
the same all over. It's like, Rebecca Black at number one. Anyway.
Just bad teeth.
Yeah. Listen, you said that, not me. I didn't say, our music's all crazy.
I want a cup of tea.
I can't believe you would make that joke at the end of that.
I can't believe
That's horrible.
My mother would make tea and biscuits. Did your grandmother do that?
No. She would dress me up as
Little Lord Fauntleroy.
Little Lord Fauntleroy, and then whip me as we watched Open All Hours.
Are you okay?
She would make me. I'm sweating.
No, you're not sweating. You're crying. Ghosty.
I'm not
You're crying.
I am sweating, and it's getting in my eyes. I can't even keep my eyes open.
That actually happened on a British sitcom.
Did it really?
Yeah, so we already copied.
Oh. I almost believed you for a second.